Welcome back to Switch to Linux. Well, today we want to talk about a recent remote code execution bug discovered in Gnome, how these things happen, and of course, what can we do about it. So this was reported in the news this week, but I thought it was worthy of a standalone video. Mostly, if nothing else, update your systems that have Gnome desktop on it immediately, just to make sure that you do not have this. So there have been a few different places that have released this article here. We'll have a look at a couple of them. So from Security Affairs, a flaw in libq library impacts GNOME Linux systems. Now, I looked around briefly at a few other systems. I couldn't find this particular package libq being used in anything else, although likely this is probably something that impacts Budgie as well, since Budgie requires GNOME, or at least it did last time I dug deeply into it. That might have changed since then, but I don't know for sure. But regardless, this video here, or this article here, kind of talks a little bit about what happens. This is a pretty high level score, 8.8. All it would require is for a system to simply download a file. You do not even have to interact with it. And that's the problem that we have with this. There's a proof of concept video. Register reported it as well. We're going to go back to the GitHub blog, which is the official release disclosure. And this is from Kevin Backhouse, and in coordination with Ilya Lipitsky, I think, who's the maintainer of libq. And I love this graphic. This is why I wanted to cover it here. So all modern digital infrastructure and some project a random person in Nebraska has been thanklessly maintaining since 2003 is propping the whole thing up. And that really is the second part of the video, how these things happen. But first, let's go ahead and talk about this execution bug. So libq is an obscure application that is not used a lot, but it does happen to be used in the GNOME system for the tracker miner. Now, most of your operating systems are going to contain a tracker miner. This is involved in indexing the files. So when you want to do a search, then you can, there's a tracker miner that when you add a new files to some folder somewhere, the tracker miner is always monitoring these folders and it will update an index. So I did even check Linux Mint does have tracker miner FS, and it's used. However, Linux Mint does not actually use this particular application. I couldn't find it in the Linux Mint source code or on my particular system as well. Now, mind you, I don't have the latest and the greatest Linux Mint, although I still didn't find it in the source code, and I did check the GitHub source code. So it is used in a lot of audio players because mostly libq is a library for parsing cue sheets, which have been utilized in laying out tracks on CDs. So those old archaic things that my younger crowd may have never seen before, a little CD. It's a little tiny disc about this big that has music on it, Well, this is a package that allows you to manage these, and so they are also used with FLAC audio files as well. And so many audio players, including Audacious, has this as a dependency. So if you not only do you have GNOME, but if you've also installed some form of media player, an audio player specifically that also has this, you might also have this as well. So just keep in mind. And then there's a proof of concept. Now, he did the proof of concept on Ubuntu, and he did the proof of concept on Fedora. These are the latest versions, Ubuntu 2304 and Fedora 38. In theory, this will also be a bug on every other system that has the GNOME desktop. So be aware of that. So really what this guy is going to do is the application is just constantly monitoring the files. Now, it just turns out that GNOME uses this particular application to monitor all of the directories. Other operating systems or other desktop environments, we should say, are using other means of doing that. That's why GNOME, despite every desktop environment generally has a search function to search for files. Only Gnome is the one that is impacted by this, and every Linux distribution that has it is impacted by it. Now, we didn't get specific information about the particular file version there, but I think we have it up here. So the libq library versions 2.2.1 and prior, it turns out that the simple bug was the lack of a completion of an if statement. And so adding that final if statement actually is all it takes to fix it. So the maintainer of this particular application has actually released a fix. And remember, 2.2.1 is the up to the vulnerable release. 2.3.0 is now released. So hopefully our GNOME systems are running at least a version greater than 2.2.1. And you should check your system now. If you have the libq package on your system, you should probably make sure it is updated at least greater than 2.2.1. Because while that happens here is all you need to do is download a file, .q file, or possibly even a number of other files that are all impacted by this particular file. And all you would need to do is download the file. And if that file contains any malicious information, it can be parsed and escalates itself into a remote code execution. So that certainly is the problem. And that's really is what happened. Now, second part of the video here, how does this happen, and is there anything we can do about it? Well, the real simple answer of how does this happen is because there's a lot of people maintaining a lot of packages, and these packages get used up for dependencies on other functions and features. You know, if I want to go, and I do this when I'm building websites, if I want to build an amazing photo gallery, for example. I'm using that example because I just had to do this. And I was looking around for what would be the perfect photo gallery for this particular website. I find somebody's code and I'm using the code. Now there's a little bug in it that it caused the original layout of the gallery to not look right. And so I went in there and I modified the code just in order to get it. Basically, all I did is I added a code that would resort the images when you scrolled to the point with the gallery on it. And that actually fixed the layout issues that we had on the system. But if there's a little bug inside of the system like that, something could behave oddly. And then when these packages get used as dependencies, it can introduce a lot of extra bugs or unexpected results in the middle. Now, this is not something that is unique to Linux packages because this is how we talk about many times on the security section how supply chain attacks happen. This is an example of a supply chain breach, okay? In which case, company is looking for some function that they can use. Okay, let's go ahead and borrow this package because it has a license that allows us to use it. So we're going to package this thing into our application. Perfectly legal, completely kosher, maintaining, of course, you have the right licenses and things like this. Well, if those underlying dependencies have errors in them, those get packaged in. Now, Linux is better in the case that it's better at parsing out those fixes versus your proprietary software, what might have them hard baked in. But this is not something that happens just on Linux because Apple uses free and open source libraries. Windows uses free and open source libraries. A variety of different applications use it. You know, the number of things that uses FFmpeg is completely staggering because you can use FFmpeg and do all sorts of cool GUI things with it. But if you know how to use the application on the command line, all the more power to you. And that's really how these types of breaches occur, is that people are utilizing these packages. And in this case, the only reason we found this particular one is because this security researcher decided to, hey, let's look at this package. Haven't looked at that one before. And this is a power and a strength of Linux and also a weakness. It's the strength that once a security researcher wants to look at something, as long as, of course, they are an ethical person, then we will get these things fixed before they become major problems. However, if we have a deeply proprietary system, then no one really knows until the exploit happens. And if a bad guy finds that because nobody else really can look for it, but somebody stumbles upon it and decides to start using that maliciously, that raises more problems for us down the road. So that really is the overall idea. Just be aware of this bug in Gnome. Look for that libq package. Be above 221. 230 is now available, but just be above 221. And if you're running Gnome, you probably have this, or if you have installed external audio players, you probably also have this package. So just be aware of that, upgrade to those. And this is a little bit about how that happens. So yeah, we need a lot more security researchers in this world looking at some of these FOSS packages and seeing what we can do with them. So hopefully this is a fun and informative short little video. Obviously no supporters stream tonight. And we will see you guys next time we do a video. Have yourselves a wonderful night, and I hope you enjoy switching to Linux. Thank you for watching this video from Switched to Linux. This channel would not be possible without the backing of the program supporters scrolling on the screen now. You can be a supporter at Patreon at patreon.com/TOMM or at thinklifemedia.com. I also want to thank the open source community who creates such excellent software that makes producing this show possible. Please remember to support your software communities. Thank you, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.